Today's interview is with Kimberly Gloria Choi, a graphic designer and illustrator, founder and manager of MarchBaby Collective. We asked Kimberly, what's her favorite book and why, business and non-business if possible. She told us, to be honest, I believe everything has a connection, action, then reactions. I'm hereby sharing with you 3 of my favorite books that have influenced my thinking in my different life stages. Non-business book, but it influenced your business thinking. Book number 1, Brand Jam, Humanizing Brands Through Emotional Design by Mark Gobe. Book number 2, Rebranding in Consumption Jungle by Tommy Lee. Book number 3, Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly and David Kelly. I read about this during my first job in a startup, Luxola, now Sephora, as a designer. This is before I started my small business, MarchBabyCollective.com. I have always wanted to do something on my own besides my full-time job. It's always a great way to express yourself with other designing tasks, just to keep your creative juices flowing. The Stanford D School and IDEO have always interested me, and here I came across this book that was written by David Kelly. They said, creativity is something you practice, not just a talent you're born with. Too many amazing words to be shared from this book. Pinpoint a short paragraph from books that shows me some point of view. Quote number 1. What do we mean by empathy in terms of creativity and innovations? For us, it's the ability to see an experience through another person's eyes, to recognize why people interact with products and services in real time, what we sometimes refer to as design research. Gaining empathy can take some time and resourcefulness, but there is nothing like observing the person you're creating something for to spark new insights. And when you specifically set out to empathize with your end users, you get your own ego out of the way. We found that figuring out what other people actually need is what leads to the most significant innovations. In other words, empathy is the gateway to better and sometimes surprising insights that can help distinguish your idea or approach. Quote number 2. The uncertainty of the uncharted path ahead can be daunting. Sometimes it feels as if circumstances are conspiring against us and we find ourselves revised in place. Quote number 3. It can lead to company paralysis when talk becomes a substitute for action. Quote number 4. The desire to be the best can get in the way of getting better. Quote number 5. Most of us have 2 lives, the life we live and the unloved life within us. Kimberly also said, I like the idea of them marketing themselves, also branding for the schools and the company IDEO. It is such an amazing idea of combining creative thinking in business. Brand Jam, Humanizing Brands Through Emotional Design by Mark Gobe. A powerful new concept from renowned designer and business guru Mark Gobe. I've always known that I'll be working for designing or art-related job fields, and branding has been fascinating to me. Now I look back and realize how much advertising and branding books I've been crazily reading during my teen days. It changed my creative thinking of how impactful branding is to a company, how emotion is tied to business, to designing, to manipulating. I've always been a sentimental and observant person. I could spend hours just looking into the details on the streets and the expressions on people's faces, just to figure out what they're thinking, where they come from, what's their story. Some friends have said I'm crazy or even wasting my time, but creativity is in the details from all walks of life. I believe I can find answers from lives. Not being dramatic here, as I said, all is connected. Design is the first spark. Design is realizing the fact of human thought, observing and analyzing, brainstorming new ideas, be the first pioneer, connect the visuals and culture, presenting company culture, creating brand elements, touch base with emotion, sensation, challenge, picture a future, collective consciousness. Rebranding and the Consumption Jungle by Tommy Lee. One of the most successful rebranding guru pioneers from Hong Kong, Tommy Lee. He has managed to save many dying companies with poor branding stories and give them a new life. Honeymoon Dessert used to be a local small family dessert store along the roadsides and is now a successful home brand with a supply chain across Southeast Asia. Tommy transformed the brand in a black humor way of concept by combining elements of monster cartoons with their signature dessert. He then applies these elements on customized tableware and interior to the stores. Brand managed to sustain itself and even grow bigger. Great case study to read, highly recommended for marketers and branding professionists. We also asked Kimberly, was there a moment specifically when something you read in a book helped you? Can you tell us about it? She replied, I search answers when I need them. It's only significant when I sought and found them through the lines in books. We also asked Kimberly what books had the greatest impact on her, and she told us, "Definitely Brand Jam. It gives me a perspective of design thinking into all kinds of businesses. It eventually helped my marketing skills along my career path." We also wanted to know what books would Kimberly recommend to youngsters interested in her professional path and why. She gave us 5 titles. Book number 1, Thinking with Type. Book number 2, Designing Brand Identity. Book number 3, A Designer's Art. Book number 4, Success by Design. Book number 5, Creative Confidence. We're also interested in finding out more about Kimberly's reading habits. We wanted to know how often she reads and in what format. She shared with us the following. "I try to read anytime I can. I always keep a few English books in Kindle and e-books for Chinese books, but I'm still an old soul, preferring paper and dust reading." We asked Kimberly, "Do you take notes or have any other technique for conquering the torrent of information?" She replied, "Most of the time, I just remember the information when it's significant. I also love to highlight the lines that I have found have struck my thoughts, marked for next time when I reopen the book. Each reading journey has different perspectives of understanding." We also wanted to know, how does Kimberly choose what books to read next? And she told us, "I'm a person who likes to read multiple books at the same time, and it really depends on my state of mind for what I feel like reading." We asked Kimberly, "Do you prioritize the books recommended by certain people? Is there anyone that you consider a book recommendations guru?" She told us, "I never prioritize my choice of reading from certain recommendations, believing the need for reading comes from the hunger of knowledge and is different for every individual. Each book has an opinion, and one opinion recommends another opinion. I'll have my own opinion of what books are worth my read." Last question. What book are you currently reading and what are you expecting to gain from it? To this question, Kimberly replied, "The Art of Strategy. I'm curious of how strategy can apply on all kinds of industries. By reading this book, I want to find out things I might not have known before, or maybe I have been played by the strategy mind game as a consumer or customer. And I want to see if this book could drastically change my logical thinking in my daily life." Another book, The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. I actually have read The Wolf of Wall Street before, but this time I want to understand this man without any Hollywood beautifying filter. Try to get into his head. I simply want to know how he used charisma and psychology to manipulate people. And I'm certain all dictators, leaders in history, they all have their very own charisma, unique tonality that attracts people's attention. This was our interview with Kimberly Gloria Choi. If you want to find out more about her and her projects, go to MarchBabyCollective.com. She also posts her amazing illustrations on Instagram at instagram.com/marchillustrations. You can find all the books mentioned in this interview in the video description. The CEOlibrary.com is a daily updated library of book recommendations and interviews from the business people we look up to. Thank you.